We're holding in siman Kuf Ayin Gimel. That's Hashem, saved by Yom Moshe, Kuf Ayin Gimel, and we're talking about the reasons not to listen to those who paskin to join the Israeli government. The Maharal Bach, the Rebbe Levi ben Chaviv, who was the Gadol Ador in Yerushalayim in the times of the Beis Yosef, 500 years ago.
What's your
Maharal Bach, Rabbeinu Levi ben Chaviv.
Like he lived in Turkey?
He lived in Yerushalayim, and he lived during the time of the Beis Yosef, a little bit earlier.
Well, what statement did he write? What was he known for?
Shalos Shuvas Maharal Bach, basically. But what he's mainly known for is the machlokes that took place at his time over the semicha.
But God, semicha was long ago.
Right. So in the time of this the Maharal Bach, the Rebbe Rav, the Rabbi Yosef Karo's rebbe, was in Tzfas, and most of the Gedolim of Eretz Israel were in Tzfas at that time, and he wanted to reinstitute semicha.
But how can you do that? There's no Masorah.
So the Rambam says that if all the Gedolim of Eretz Israel agree to give semicha to a certain person, even if they don't have semicha, that person has semicha. And once that person has semicha, then he can go and give other people semicha. So,
but you need a Masorah to Moshe for this.
He got together. So he got together all the Gedolim of his place in Tzfas, which is Roiv. So he held Roiv as like Kol. That was really one of the machlokes that he had. He held Roiv as like Kol. So they gave him semicha, and then he gave other people semicha. He gave the Beis Yosef semicha, and the Beis Yosef gave it to his talmidim, and it went on a couple of generations.
But he didn't believe
the Maharal Bach. So the purpose of the semicha, by the way, was because the Yidden were coming from the Spanish Inquisition at that time. They were running away from Spain. Some of them had given in to their to the pressure and done avodah zarah b'oinus, and they wanted to get malchus and be miskaper on it. That's the reason why they wanted to reinstitute semicha, because they held that malchus not given by a bezin of smuchim is not a malchus. You can give malchus to anybody, but it's not going to tuoif anything. It's not really malchus. So that's why they did it. So Reb Levi ben Chaviv held it's not allowed to reinstitute semicha.
Of course not. So one of the tradition to back to Moshe.
So one of the reasons was, he said, the Rambam says tzarech hechreo, that this matter needs to be decided. In other words, the Rambam didn't come to a final decision on it. He just said his idea merely that this is so, but he doesn't say. So that's one reason. And the second reason is because he holds that you have to have all the Chachmei Eretz Yisrael, not Roiv of them. So it's not enough to have Roiv. And then also, we're going to get to one of the reasons in a second, right now. Take a look. Ve'amar al-Bach be'kuntres ha-smicha. He wrote a special kuntres on it at the end of his Shalos Tshuvos, and he says, "Shebesoif ha-sefer," it's the end of his sefer, "Hevi kol ho-inyan shechach mitzvahs hechlitu lahachzir ha-smicha." He brings the whole story of how the Rebbe Rav and his chachamim of Tzvas decided to go back and reinstitute smicha. Ve'amar al-Bach im chachmei Yerushalayim lo yiskimu l'davar. The Maharal Bach and those in Yerushalayim didn't agree to it. Because of Sham Maharal Bach, af ki anachnu muatim neged chachmei tzvas, even though we're the minority of the chachmei Eretz Israel at least, the nefishi minan tuva, the ones of tzvas are more numerous than us. Mikol makom ef shalom rabazeh achri rabbim lahatois. We can't go after the majority. So first of all, he holds you need all of them. But even if you want to say a majority is enough, but he didn't hold that this majority has a different majority. Why not? Because because the majority didn't meet together. In order for a roiv to work, you have to have everybody meeting together, discussing it together, and then coming to a decision. But over here, the Chachmei Tzfas and the Chachmei Yerushalayim didn't come together before they made the decision. They didn't discuss it and give their arguments back and forth. We don't say that you follow the majority in such a case. We only say that you follow a majority when it's a roiv of a kol, when it's everybody together, and then roiv of those people decide something. But here it's not everybody together. And then he says, even if you're going to tell me that now they should get together and start discussing it and do it over again, he says, no, they get together to discuss it. That won't help. Since they already made a decision based on their own psak, and they already went ahead and gave smicha to the Rebbe Rav, right? So now they're going to be biased. That it's going to be very embarrassing for them to take back what they did. Umachmas oisa hanagia, and because of that bias, oisa natiyas hadas, it's going to create a bias of the mind, litois b'ha'emes, to make a mistake about the truth. V'iyafshel etzar from the minyan haroiv, and then you can't use these chach mitzvahs as part of the minyan. That's the Maral Bach Shita. And by the way, what he says is really a beferish Gemara in Hoirius. The Gemara says in Hoirius Daf Beis, I just brought it over here to look it up. The first Mishnah in Hoirius talks about a case of someone who does an aveira that Bezdin Paskin is mutter, and he bases himself on Bezdin. Bezdin said, yeah, it's allowed to eat this food, and he eats it, and it turns out that it's chaylev. So he doesn't have to bring a korban, because he did it based on the Hoiras Bezdin. He didn't know any better. Maybe if everybody does it, then there's a korban parahalim davar shel tzibur, but if one person does it, he doesn't bring his individual korban chatas. But the Mishnah says, let's say someone who's a Talmid Chacham, who knows that Bezdin made a mistake, he says, Hoyru Bezdin v'yada echad mehem shato. One of the Talmid Chacham knows that Bezdin made a mistake, and he still goes and does the Aveira, he has to bring his own korban, because he knew better. So the Gemara asks right away in Daf Beis, on the base, what's the pshat that this person did the Aveira if he knew that it was aser? Why did he do it? So the Gemara answers, Ta b'mitzvah lishmoya divrei chachamim. He made a mistake and he thought that it's a mitzvah to listen to the Rav. So he thought that, in other words, okay, I hold it's aser to eat this, but the Bezdin paskin it's mutter, so I'm going to be machniya my own opinion to Bezdin and I'm going to go eat it. That's what he thought. Yeah. Maybe he read the mitzvah of loisasur, and he thought, okay, the Sefer HaChinuch says that even if you're right, but still you have to go give in to the Rav, and the Ramban over there says that you shouldn't say, how can I eat this food that I know is treif? No, you have to give in to the Bezdin. So he knew those things, and he thought, okay, therefore I'm going to go eat it. But really not. Why not? What's the mistake he made? So the Ramban in the Sefer Mitzvahs explains. The Ramban has in the beginning of Sefer Mitzvahs, it says Yud Dalet Shirashim. Yeah. To explain how he counts the mitzvahs. Yeah. The first shoyrish there is the shoyrish that you can't count mitzvahs d'Rabbanan, even though there's loisasur. So there's a whole long discussion between the Rambam and the Ramban, other Mefarshim, about what loisasur is. Very important thing to learn. So the Ramban over there asks this question. He says, what, on the one hand, we have this Gemara in Hoirius Daf Beis. Gemara says that you're not supposed to give in to the majority. On the other hand, you have the pasuk loisasur, and you have a din of a zakin mamre. The person who doesn't want to give in to the majority is chayav misa. So what's going on here? So the Ramban answers that the chiluk is whether they sat together. Very simple, exactly like the Maral Bach says here. That he says that if they sat together and they discussed it and they came out that it's mutter, then even those who held it's aser have to give in and they have to eat it. They have to be matir it. Over here in the Gemara in Hoirius is talking when you're not with the Bezdin. You're not a member of the Sanhedrin Agadol. You just heard that in Yerushalayim the Sanhedrin Agadol came out with a psak that it's allowed to eat this thing.
Chaylev.
This thing that you think is chaylev and they think is not chaylev. Yeah. So fine. So they came out with a psak, but they didn't hear your opinion. So you can't listen to their opinion until you've had a chance to discuss it with them. So this is exactly what he's saying here. And what he's leading up to, obviously, is what happened with the Agudath. The Agudath sat down, whoever did exactly, we don't know who exactly Paskin did it, okay, the Ayin and the Sefer Mikado outside Hey Be'ir, exactly who gave the psak. But, okay, whoever gave the psak, but they didn't do it at a meeting of all the Gedolei Ador. What's interesting is the rebbe doesn't point this out, but they didn't even do it at a meeting of the Moetzes Gedolei Ador. Even the Moetzes Gedolei Ador themselves didn't Paskin that it's mutter. Okay, but that's not even. He's saying not even that. He's saying that they didn't sit together with the Gedolei, all the Gedolei Ador together. Okay. V'herich b'davar. Back to Vayel Moshe now. V'herich b'davar. The Maral Bach goes on. Ba'arichas here about this sugi here, about not listening to the majority when the majority didn't take into account the minority. V'havi kamerayas min hashas. He brings many proofs from Gemara. The afba amoraim akdoishim. That even by the amoraim, achar sha'astu ma'aseh, once they paskin and they actually follow their psak, al pi rasam, chashvu lahem l'noigim mitam zeh. It's considered that they're like nogei b'davar. They're biased to continue with their conclusion because they already paskin with it. They already ate based on their psak. The ksifa milsa l'mihader. It's embarrassing to go back. So So if that's true of the Amoraim HaKadoshim, then the Chal V'Chomer B'Chachmei Zmanenu is true of the Chachmei of our time. Yuyin Sham Sheherich. V'Kacha Ani Roya Achshav. So that's what the Maharal Bach says 500 years ago. So I see the same thing is true today. Sheyodea Ani. I know. Sheyesh Gam B'Soich Agudah Rabbanim U'Balabatim Yirei Hashem. I know that there's some of the Gedolim of the Agudah who really don't agree with the idea of entering the Medina. You know, after they paskin that they should enter the Medina, the people in Eretz Israel paskin, the couple of people that Itchamer Levine went to, it wasn't everybody.
It wasn't a big gadol.
No.
The Satmar's actual opponents are not big gedolim. Right. Kasher wasn't a big gadol Torah. Whoever held it kasher is a big gadol.
So then, Reb Aaron Kotler had to give a clarification of what was done in America. He wasn't part of the psak, but he gave a clarification. Reb Reuven wrote a sefer he also wrote that it's not really up to us to decide. It's up to the Chachmei Eretz Israel. Basically, he's not taking responsibility for the decision. So basically, it wasn't everybody in the Agudah who decided, not by all means. And he says Balabatim also. It's known the Rebbe was very friendly with Harry Goodman.
Well, Mike Tress too. He was friendly with.
Mike Tress, but Harry Goodman was one of the people who was actually a decision maker in the Agudah, who didn't hold of what they did. He didn't hold.
Agudah of America is still a separate side of Agudah. It doesn't mean they had the same views Agudah of Israel does.
Right.
They may have the same account, but it doesn't mean they have the same views.
So, Balabatim Yirei Hashem Shekoyev Lohem Amaisim Oela, that it bothers them, the things that the Agudah does, the Haskama to the Medina and these kind of things. Einam Yecholim Lasos Dover, they can't do anything Neged HaMenalim, against those who lead the Agudah. V'listo Agachar Min Agudah, and they can't drop out of the Agudah now. Kivan Shehem Kvar B'Soicha, because they're already in it. They've done many things during their participation in the Agudah, in this party. So they can't just drop out now. It's ksifa lahu milsa. It's embarrassing for them to go back. Because of that bias that they don't want to leave Agudah, they do all types of tricks. In other words, they come up with all kinds of excuses lahatztik hashita to justify what happened, to justify what was done. But they don't come out with the truth, because really they know the truth deep down, but they're just trying to justify retroactively what was done by the Agudah leaders. And like Tzvi Weinman says in Mikado at Tzadhei V'ir, it wasn't everybody, it was just a few activists, and those activists did it. And once they did it, the Gedolim of the Agudah went and they kashed it l'mafreya. Ulefi daiti, and according to my opinion, ilu hayam etzias, she's asfu kol yirei Hashem, that if it would be possible to get together all the yirei Hashem, all the rabbanim of the door, v'hayicholim kol echad v'yachad, and if it would be possible to go and discuss the subject, right? And everyone would have an opportunity lahagi daitoi, to give his opinion, b'li shum pachad moira, without having any fear of repercussions, or b'li shum negir, without any bias. Hayalani roiv gadol me'ayireim, there would be a vast majority of those yireim ladas ha'amitis asher kasavti, who agree with the opinion that I wrote here, that it's also to join the Medina. Aval hu davar she'i efshar, but making such a gathering is impossible. Ki harbe talmidei chachamim v'yireim mefachtim af lo avoy b'shetach zeh, that many talmidei chachamim are afraid to even come out and discuss the subject in public. She'ena b'deya achasi matzav ador, because it's not going to agree with the people of the generation sheto miderech emes, who have strayed from the truth. Umikol shekein legalos emes asher bilvavoy, and for sure not to go and speak and say everything that they hold in public. They for sure don't want to do that, because they have the fear of the public on them, because they lose all their mispalim and their shuls and everything, so and all their supporters. And when they do make gatherings in the world, Agudah conventions and such things like that, there's a great mixture among them. That they bring down people there who are completely wrong in their shittas. And they have a lot of a lot of bias. Not just like the small amount of bias that he was discussing that is embarrassing to go back from the Aguda, but they're mamish in it. They're all in it with their whole bodies in it. Their whole life is in it. People who are politicians in the government, like they brought down there was this guy Lou Polyansky, the mayor of Jerusalem. They brought him down to the Aguda convention once, and I'm sure in his time there were such things. By the way, I forgot to mention Reb Shimon Schwab, one of the people of Aguda of America, one of the Gedolim of the Moetzes in America, was one of the people who said this, that he wouldn't sit down at any meeting with the Moetzes of Eretz Israel because he knew that what they did by participating in the government was wrong. He didn't want to have anything to do with it. But he was a part of Aguda in America. In any case, now the Ukdusha Zikni b'Yismach Moshe. My great-great-grandfather, the Yismach Moshe, Parshas Mishpatim Kosev Apostle Ki Hashoichad Yaver Pichim V'Yisalev Divrei Tzadikim. Yesterday's parsha, it says that the bribe blinds the eye of the wise, and it twists the words of the righteous. So the kasha hakefel. First of all, it's shver. Why does it repeat itself? The gam kasha v'chi tzadikim mekabel shoichad heim. Are tzadikim people who accept bribes? The cost of levire. So the Yismach Moshe explains that mekabel shoichad af shehem chachamim beemes. Even though people who are mekabel shoichad are wise, but iav sheshalo yitu. It's impossible that they won't go off the proper path of understanding beemes. The ivrim heim beemes. They're truly blind. Even if together with those judges who took the bribes, there are other people who are tzadikim, they don't accept bribes, they go and they confuse the others. So in other words, this is the two halves of the pasuk. That's the first group of people. That's the people who completely jumped into the Aveira because of the bribe, because they took a bribe. People, Israeli politicians and these kind of people. And then you have even tzaddikim who sit together with them get influenced, and that's what is Masalef Divrei Tzaddikim. V'siyim al zeh kain nir li bar, and that's what the Yismach Moshe finishes off. He says this is a very clear and true pshat. Hinei kasav kain af kishiyesh echad shemekabel shoichad. He's saying even if you have a bezdin with many people on it, and one of them accepted the bribe, that will confuse all the tzaddikim on the bezdin. So mevalabel misalif as hayoshvim imay. It completely confuses all those who sit with him. Afim heim nekim v'tzadikim, even if they're completely clean of that daver. When there are many people who are part of the bezdin who have negiyas atzumos, they have a lot of very strong biases. That they're going to go and confuse the few people who are the minority who don't accept those bribes. Shulchan Aruch says in Chosh Mishpat Siman Gimel Sif Beis, the Imyesh B'Soicha Bezdin Gam Anashim She'enam Muganim. If among the people in the Bezdin are people who are not fit to be there, Lo Yahavi B'Chlal Bezdin, then the whole Bezdin is not good. Davi Kesher Boigdim. It's a conspiracy of the traitors. Umekoyer B'Sanhedrin Daf Chavav. The sources in Sanhedrin, which is that Gemara we had before about Shevna and Chizkiah, where it says that Shevna had more people than Chizkiah. Chizkiah had 110,000 and Shevna 130,000, and still Hashem didn't listen to Shevna because he's the Kesher Boigdim. Some of the people there were Rishaim. The Pirush Rashi Zal, and the Gemara there before also tells a story that I think that they were going to be Ma'aber the Shana. They had to be making a bezdin to make a leap year, and in order to make that leap year, they had to calculate based on different calculations whether it was proper to make a leap year. So on the way, Reish Lakish saw that they were passing by some people who were working during Shemitah, and he criticized them for that. He said, these people are working in Shemitah. So the two Dayanim who were with Reish Lakish said, no, they're not really working in Shemitah, they have an excuse, and they made up different excuses to justify what they did. So Reish Lakish held that these Dayanim were possible to be Dayanim because they were already being Matzik Rishaim. So Reish Lakish went to Rabbi Yochanan and he said, people who are Machal Shvis are allowed to be in the Bezdin for Ibra Shana. And then he changed his mind, then he changed it back again. And you see over there that if someone's not allowed to be in the Bezdin, if someone did something wrong, then you can't be in the Bezdin. You can't be part of the number. It's talking when you need a certain number of people for Ibra Shon. You need 7 people or 5 people, and you don't have enough people because some of them are like this. Kitzer. So Rashi says there, Pirish Rashi Zal Zeh, the Hecha Devuin and Bezdin. Whenever you need a Bezdin, Nimnim, a Bezdin that's counted, and the Bachor over there has the Girs and Ne'emanim. Zeh Eino Minyan. To count these people in the minyan, you can't count them. You can't count people who are biased or who are unfit to be Dayanim. So therefore, even though not everybody in the Agudah accepts bribes, but since some people do, you can't count them as part of the minyan. So to sum it up, in this siman we have 2 reasons not to listen to the Agudah. Number 1 is because they made a decision already without consulting all the Chachmei Ador, and not only that, not even consulting their own moetzes, that the rebbe didn't speak about. And then the second reason is that there are some of them who are under bias, they're under influences from bribes and things like that, and since they are there together with them, it's Masalik Divrei Tzadikim, it's Masalik even the words of the Tzadikim among them who don't accept any such bribes.